Hey, everybody. How is everybody? Hi, it's Joni Bates. It's 7 o'clock on Wednesday. And what do we do every Wednesday at 7 o'clock? It is Whiskey Wednesday. And I, again, am Joni Bates, founder and CEO of JB & Co., powered by Keller Williams. And what always happens when we get on Whiskey Wednesday, Harlow want to join us. Come here. I mean, guys, literally, he was just sitting here completely quiet, laying down. And he hears me go live and he's like, I need to sit with my mom so she can talk to her people about real estate. And that's what he does. He just, I think he likes real estate as much as I do. Do you like real estate, Harlow? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay, so we're going to do this with Harlow. I wanted to talk today about something that if you are buying a home or selling a home, you should know all about it. Your realtor should be explaining this document to you. It is extremely important and it gets overlooked. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go into the weeds and we're going to talk about the seller's property disclosure statement. First, I'm going to explain what this is. So first of all, I am in the state of Georgia. I am part of NAR, the National Association of Realtors. I am also part of the Cobb County Board of Realtors. My insurance and whatnot is held by Keller Williams, and I am part of the Keller Williams Signature Partners brokerage. When you buy and sell a home in the state of Georgia, there are different exhibits and legal documents that are required. And all of them have different values of importance. And this one is particularly important. Let me give you broad strokes about what it is. The seller's property disclosure is something that all folks who are selling their home has to fill out, okay? It basically creates transparency around the condition of your home. And when I say creates transparency around the condition of your home, let me show you what I mean. Basically, this document, let me zoom in for you, becomes an exhibit. It's real important that y'all remember that when you are selling your home, it's a contract. When you are a buyer and you're looking at purchasing a home and you write an offer, that offer is a unilateral contract. It's basically saying these are the actions and the things I'm going to do in order to procure this home. It's a promise, okay? As a seller, when your agent brings this to you and says, here, fill this out, it's like 7 pages and yeah, just fill it out. And I'm going to need that back. Okay, there's a lot more to it than just fill it out and I'm going to need that back. Because as a seller, you are saying that best to your knowledge, everything in here is correct. And here's the thing, y'all. You fill this document out and you decide that you know what, when I purchased the house, they said that the back bedroom caught on fire and then they fixed it. But I mean, we haven't had any problems with it. So we're not going to, I mean, why do we need to say that? It wasn't us. No, but it's information that you have about the home that you must disclose. Even if it didn't have anything to do with you, it's information you have. There's something else called latent issues, meaning if you know that something happened behind the walls that you can't see, you must disclose those. This is the number one reason people get sued, is because they're trying to pull a fast one and they don't put everything on their seller's property disclosure. And then the new buyer comes in and discovers, let's say there was a major electrical problem and that technically the sellers knew about it and didn't disclose. The buyers end up having a fire. Guess who they're going to come for? They're going to come for you, the seller, for not putting that on the seller's property disclosure. Okay, so let's take a look at this document. It is going to become an exhibit within the final contract that initially starts as a unilateral contract. This gets added to it So the buyer's agent pulls this document from the seller side and adds it saying, we understand, we agree, and we comply with everything in here. So this is giving you all the instructions. So this is basically a statement saying the seller agrees to answer all questions in reference to the property and the improvements thereon. Answer all questions fully, accurately, and to the actual knowledge and belief of all sellers. Hereinafter, collectively, knowledge. Provide additional explanations to all yes answers in the corresponding explanation section below each group of questions, including providing to the buyer any additional documentation in the seller's possession unless the yes answer is self-evident. So this is detailed stuff. Promptly revise the statement if there are any material changes in the answers to any of the questions prior to closing, and provide a copy of the same to the buyer and any broker involved in this transaction. So that's A. That's giving you basically the behaviors that have to happen with this document. This document is for the buyer. Beware, in the state of Georgia, the buyer should conduct a thorough inspection of the property. If the seller has not occupied the property or has not recently occupied the property, the seller's knowledge of the property condition may be limited. The buyer is expected to use reasonable care to inspect the property and confirm that it is suitable for the buyer's purposes. If an inspection of the property reveals problems or areas of concern, that means yes or no to actual knowledge and belief of the sellers and property. In other words, the seller's answer no to a question, it means the seller has no knowledge whether such condition exists on the property. As such, the seller's answers should not be taken as a warranty or guarantee of accuracy of such answers, nor a substitute for the buyers doing their own due diligence. Basically, buyer beware in the state of Georgia. Someone can fill out this document to the best of their ability, and you can't come for them if they just didn't know, okay? So, Section C, this is where the seller's disclosure gets into the business of it. What was the main residential dwelling constructed? What year? So that goes there. It doesn't require a yes or a no. Is the property vacant? Yes or no? If yes, how long has it been since the property has been occupied? This is critical. If you moved out and the home is vacant, you need to specify exactly how long this home has been vacant. Is the property or any portion leased? So basically, is there something on the property? Is there a second home? Is there an apartment? Is there currently a lease? If you say yes, be prepared to provide a copy of that lease. Has the property been designated as historic or in historic district? So if you say yes, be prepared to explain what that means. Section 2 talks about assessments and covenants. This has to do with things like HOAs. That needs to be in here. Lead-based paint. Yes or no? That needs to be filled out. And it goes through all these different sections. This one has to do with alterations. Have there been any, did you add many additions to the home? This has to do with systems. Has the HVAC system been replaced during the seller's ownership? Yes or no? What was the date of the HVAC's last service? What's that going? So anything that you say yes to, make sure that down here you're explaining it, kind of like when you do a doctor's thing. If you say yes, XYZ, then you have to say why, okay? Now, this is critical. I cannot tell you how many times that I look at a seller's property disclosure for my buyers, and all these are blank, 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 blank. Agents, do a better job. This is a critical document that your sellers must disclose. Take this document seriously. You are protecting your sellers. And as a buyer's agent, I'm looking at protecting my buyer. I'm looking at this 7-page document as a glimpse into the possibilities of issues with the home. Doesn't mean that there are issues, but it gives me a glimpse to ask better questions, okay? So back to this, how old's the hot water heater? What's the source of the water, public, private, or well? Again, answering all of these questions. And if you say yes, prepare for an explanation. Again, there's a lot of pages. Do not take this lightly as a seller. Sit down with all parties who are on the title, be it partners, husband and wife, joint tenancy in common, however that is. Sit down and discuss this. If you've lived in this home for 30 years, that's 30 years of information that you're going to need to put into this document. We're talking a tree fell on the roof. That needs to go in here. We're talking a water pipe broke in the bathroom and we had to replace the kitchen floor. Okay, all of those things have to be in here. Flooding, draining, moisture, and springs. See, all of it's in here. Soil and boundaries. Termites, dry rot, pests, and wood destroying organisms. Y'all, if you do not have a termite bond and warranty on your home, you need to get one. We live in the South. Wood destroying insects, organisms are just a given. They're going to happen. So it's very important that C is filled out in its entirety. Okay. And then again, there's going to be an explanation. So see, slide 4, there's 4 pages here. Now we're on to page 5. More things. Any safety concerns, litigation and insurance, anything going on with defects, poor construction, everything in here needs to be disclosed. Because truly, if they find out that there's a lien on the home and you know it and you didn't disclose it, that's going to be a problem, right? Okay, and then here's a section 13 that you can put in any other defects or issues that have happened in the past, okay? Just put it in there. If you need to attach a second document, it's better to be more prepared and disclose more than less. Agricultural disclosure, and then we're on to this page. This is where you can put in all your extras as far as if you have more explanations within the beginning of the document. You can handwrite this. It doesn't have to be super fancy. Just get the information on the page, okay? Now we're going to talk about the fixtures checklist. This is super, super critical, y'all. The way that you fill this out is what you're saying is items not remaining with the property, okay? Items identified as not remaining with the property that are physically attached to the property shall be carefully removed from the property in a manner designated to do minimal damage, okay? But such items do not need to be replaced with a similar item. You hear that? Okay. The seller shall make reasonable efforts to repair areas damaged by the removal of an item. Reasonable efforts to repair damage shall not extend to painting newly exposed areas that do not match the surrounding paint color. Seller is encouraged but shall not be required to remove fixtures not remaining with the property prior to marketing the home. The seller shall remove all items left blank below prior to closing or the transfer of possession, whichever is later. The seller shall lose the right to remove those items not timely removed, but shall be liable to the buyer for the reasonable cost of disposing such items, provided that the buyer disposes of them within 30 days after closing. What does that mean? It means, y'all, if you want something that's attached to your house, take it down before you show it. If there's a chandelier or if there's a ceiling fan or there's an item that is physically attached to the house, remove that before your house is shown, okay? Very important. Now, this is an interesting checklist, all right? You all have seen this when you've sold a home or if you are in the process of buying a home. Everyone wants to know what's going to stay and what's going to leave. If the box is checked, it will stay. Now, I want you to look very closely at this. The clothes dryer, the clothes washer. If those boxes are checked, then those must stay. Now, if you say, I really planned on buying a new one, so I'm going to be kind and leave the washer and the dryer. And then later on, you're like, you know what? I actually am going to take those and give them to my daughter. And you move those out and you mark those, you better plan on bringing them back or buying a new one because you have committed to leaving these items. Dishwasher, garage door openers, disposal, ice maker, microwave oven, oven range, all these different things, okay? Then we go all the way down to real simple things like speakers, switch plate covers. Yeah, truly, some people take their switch plate covers. This gets extremely detailed. Ceiling fans, chandeliers. Now, some people leave this blank, meaning they can take it with them if they wanted to, okay? This can get tricky. This can get tricky. Mirrors. You know how you've got permanent hanging mirrors in maybe a bathroom? Well, what if these aren't checked? That means they can take them. They can absolutely take them. And let's talk about things like recreation things, like a pool. I need to be very clear about this. If you have a pool and you have pool equipment, pool chemicals, pool furniture, pool everything, I would recommend that you attach an extremely detailed list of everything you are willing to leave behind in the purchase of the home. If you have a pool robot, is that pool equipment? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. We need to make sure that we identify exactly what we mean when we're talking about this area. And that's your agent's job to make sure that there is full disclosure and everyone understands what's happening. The clarification regarding multiple items. A lot of people have 2 refrigerators. One's in the garage, one's in the kitchen. If it says the fridge stays because you marked it up here, which fridge? Make sure you specify which refrigerator is staying, okay? The last section here is making sure folks understand that if you know something's broken and it's going to show up on an inspection, just put it in here. If you know your garbage disposal's on the fritz, write it in. Garbage disposal in main kitchen's broken. Okay, that's great to know, right? Just disclose it. That's the theme. Then, of course, everyone signs off on it. Now, I know I went into the weeds about this, and what I really want to make sure y'all know is how important it is. It is, I can't even explain how important it is. I need my people, when you guys are filling out your seller's property disclosure, I will do it with you. We send this to you in DocuSign. My admin sends it to you. And we are able to just click through the boxes. We do not want to click quickly. We don't want to just be like, we're done. We want to take our time. We don't want to be rushed. If you need to have this as a hard copy and you don't want it in your computer and you want to write all over it and then give it to me, and I can make sure it gets entered properly as a complete snapshot with transparency about the condition of your home and anything and all the time that you've lived there about what has happened. Okay. Now, I am also using this Whiskey Wednesday to share with all of my clients in regards to this document because it's that important. It's that important to understand that this document must be filled out to the best of your knowledge. And if you turn it in to me and it's already signed and all those things and you remember something, absolutely let me know because we can go back and we can amend this. But once it's amended, understand that this document gets attached to your listing, which means anyone who's looking at your house can look at this. So it must be accurate, it must be timely, it must be updated. So if there's currently an offer out on the home and this changes, we need to be very diligent in making sure that the most current seller's property disclosure is included in all contracts and all offers. Okay. Now, Joni, what do you do if you've never lived in the house? You've never lived there. You're like, I don't need to do this. This isn't my gig. I don't need to do a seller's property disclosure because I've never lived in the house. Not true. It's not called a seller's property disclosure. This one is called a latent defect disclosure. That is basically done if you have purchased a home and your jam is all about flipping. You want to flip. You are real interested in going in there and doing all the things as far as putting in new bathrooms, new kitchen, new fixtures. You're going to do all those things. In the state of Georgia, you too are accountable to any latent defects. Okay, let's take a look at this one. We're going to zoom in. This is much shorter. Okay, it has the same weight, it has the same transparency, and it has the same importance as an SPD, the seller's property disclosure. This document is used for people who have never occupied the home. Perfect example. Grandma passes away and has left the home to you. Okay, well, you now have inherited that home and you are going to sell it. You must fill out this form to have complete disclosures about anything in the home that you might know about. Now, you might have limited knowledge, but whatever you know needs to be put in here. So this one talks about the seller occupancy. The seller occupies or was the most recent occupant of the property. Seller was not the most recent occupant of the property, or the seller has never occupied the property. That's pretty clear. It's pretty much asking you, have you ever lived there? Did you live there at one time? Or, you got to put it, you have to be honest on these. The seller hereby discloses the known latent defects. This is where you're basically saying, I know that grandma had a tree fall on the house and she had the roof replaced maybe 5 years ago. Put that in here. Grandma had a fire in the kitchen. Put that in here. Okay. If you are a flipper and you purchase a home and you walk in and there's mold and there's rodents and there is previous fire damage, it is illegal for you to try and cover that up. It is illegal for you to try and be like, you know what? We got a certificate of occupancy. We got a letter of completion from the county. We're good. No, you're not. Because if an inspector goes in there and finds out that this home has previously been burnt, y'all are going to be in trouble. And you will have an opportunity to correct that, because everyone wants to first think that you made just an error in judgment, and that you weren't being deceitful. Okay. Agricultural disclosure, same thing. And then this goes back into the checklist as far as, regardless of whether an item is a fixture or not, the seller shall have the right to remove all items on the fixture checklist below that are left blank. The seller has the right to remove things. The items on the checklist below that are checked or marked shall remain with the property. Okay. Same thing. We go to the next page and all these things are here, just like the page we saw before. It's extremely important, particularly when working with a family member who has passed and you have inherited the property. There may be things on that property that are literally bolted to the ground. It could be a bench. It could be a flower pot. It could even be a tree that the family's like, you know what? We really, really want to take this with us. All you have to do is put it on here. All you have to do is leave it blank. Okay. A porch swing, leave it blank. That means you can take it with you. Landscaping, lighting, irrigation, gazebo, flagpole, doghouse, fence, boat, any of these things. If you want to take them, don't mark the box. And then down here, of course, this is where you're going to be able to clarify different items as far as if you wish for the refrigerator to stay, designate which refrigerator. If you know that something's broken, ceiling fan in the second bedroom doesn't work, write it in here. Then again, everyone's going to sign it to make it legal. And then you're done. So anytime you are selling a property in the state of Georgia, you must have a seller's property disclosure or a latent defect disclosure. Seller's property disclosure is if you've lived there, if you're primary residence. The other one, latent defect, is if it is a property that you've inherited that you may have lived in for a very short amount of time and it was a long time ago, and you don't have full ownership. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's talk about it. Let's see if you have any questions about what is happening in regards to sellers' property disclosures. All right, this was not like super interesting. I know, I get that. I totally get that. But when we are in this world of litigation, people like to sue people. They really do. This document can help prevent that. It really is all about transparency. If you know something happened in your home, the seller's property disclosure is where you have to talk about it, okay? And then here's another kicker, y'all, and you're going to have to get your mind around this one. If a listing, if you're a seller and you've done your seller's property disclosure and you've done really good and your agent has advised you perfectly and you've signed it and that has become an exhibit within your listing, and a buyer comes by and says, ooh, winner, chicken dinner, 123 Main Street. I want that property, seller's property disclosure. I see that. That looks good. We're under contract. We're doing good. We're within our due diligence period, meaning that buyer gets to access that seller's house and have inspections done, as many as they want. The inspector comes through and finds, woo, you got some problems. And it's going to be expensive. So you, as the buyer, with your agent, fill out something called an ATAC, an amendment to address concerns. And you attach that 40-page inspection. What just happened? You, the buyer, just informed the seller of every single defect in their house. What now? The agent knows. The agent has presented that to the seller. What is the seller obligated to do now that they know that their electrical panel is way out of date, that there's leaks underneath the sink, that there are rodents in the attic? None of those things were on the seller's property disclosure before. What do you think has to happen now? What do you think has to happen now? Well, they have to disclose. So if the buyer says, buy, we can't come to an agreement, we can't negotiate, and they leave during due diligence, they get their earnest money back. That seller's on the hook for disclosing the things that were discovered through that inspection by that buyer who said goodbye. And you can follow up. You can absolutely follow up and make sure that it's been done. And you can hold that agent liable by reaching out to their broker and letting them know, here's the thread. This is what happened. It's not being disclosed. So agents, make sure that you know what you're doing, because once you go under contract and once you receive an ATAC and you receive an inspection, you as an agent by law are now obligated to disclose everything you know about that property. So be careful. Be careful about the offers that you accept. It goes deep, okay? It goes deep. Okay, I'm done. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at 678-788-6465. I'm Joni Bates, founder and CEO of JB & Co., and I'm powered by Keller Williams, and we have lots to talk about coming up in the next couple of weeks about the NARS settlement with the Department of Justice and the changes that are coming at you in regards to being a buyer and a seller in this market. If you're working with JB & Co., you literally got nothing to worry about, but I will keep you informed on what all that needs to look like. All right. Y'all be well. Take care.